mentioned when Idaho Power was involved, they were to the point of providing pink slips to all the employees.
Yep.
Uh,
In Baker, I mean in the
Yes.
territory.
They were going to use their own people. They were a non-union organization, so that would probably entered into some of their decision making, but all of the employees had received a pink slip that would have been effective, and I assume that those people could have some of them could have applied with Idaho Power for positions, but they were not thinking, from what I understood, of having a main office here, for example, or having offices much of any kind here. There are mainly service organizations that would be here, repair crews, etc. The other item would be probably sending your bills over to Boise, like we had previously sent them to California. I think some of the background in the late 80s was that Baker was going through, and a lot of Eastern Oregon, some tough times economically. And this was seen as a good company providing some good family wage jobs, in addition to adding a lot of jobs, because we're going to move the central office from Walnut Creek, California to Baker City. So that alone added more jobs than had been here previously. Anybody that's in the central office there pretty much would be adding those numbers. We had issued, we're selling memberships at a penny apiece. Our financiers thought that was a ridiculous amount. And I remember commenting to them at a meeting in Portland that it took 30 minutes to get that penny out of people, because these were our bankers I was talking to from Washington. And he had said, well, maybe I don't understand the culture out here. And I thought, well, to myself, you really hit that on the head, you know. It wasn't the amount of money, it was just whether people wanted to become involved or not. We published a newspaper called The Pioneer that we more or less handed out or sent out to people that we had addresses of, but made extra copies that if we met anybody that was interested, we could hand them a copy to let them know what was going on at the time. Because as Peggy said, there was about a year of time here that was from 87 to August of 80, or latter part there of 88, when we actually bought the company, that there was, you had to communicate with people. And
that's where I came in.
That was interesting too, because the common conception was that we would be climbing poles and taking the place of these people. And so first of all, you had to convince them that no, it's going to be basically about like it is. And you, of course, wanted to know what you knew about an electric company, and you had to explain that. So it was quite an experience.
Umatilla Electric loaned us $5,000 when we first started, and we took that $5,000. Well, we were all pretty conservative folks, and I don't think we ever spent that money. We ended up giving it back to them eventually, but we got by without it somehow, and I guess it's all those penny memberships. We had 700 pennies when we bought it, and we borrowed, was it 45 million?
Yeah. No, we had, it sold for 45 million.
Right, right.
We borrowed, and it was negotiated that we would pay 33 cash, and 12 million would be on a 4-year no-interest note.
From CP National.
CP National.
So with $7 in capital, that's a pretty good leverage.
Peggy traveled to a couple meetings, or a number of meetings, I should say. Over to Burns we went, and John Day, and each of those were quite interesting, because at the time in Burns they were trying to form another cogenerator over there, which would have been larger than any that we had in this territory before. So there was a discussion between the people that were supporting that and the people that were just everyday people there sitting in a horseshoe. But the politicians and some of the business people wanted to see this this new enterprise over there, although we knew it had very little chance of succeeding. We didn't dwell on that subject. But after we finished there, the average people in the community came up and said they were encouraging us to go for it and so forth, but they just didn't want to speak out at the meeting.
We were all alone, I know that. I like the other story about Burns better.
Yeah, well, that's what
we had another community meeting at I think their library, and I was up front, and we had quite a large group assembled, townspeople. Things were going a little better than that first meeting, and I began to speak, and there was a fellow sitting right on the corner of the first row, and he began to talk, interrupting me. And so I kind of stopped and gave him a little room. No, he just kept right on. And I thought, well, is this guy kind of disabled in some way, or what's going on? Well, then I looked again. He was drunk, dead drunk, and nobody was doing anything about it. So I thought, we got to get this guy out of here so we can have this meeting. So I grabbed him by the collar and put him right out the side door of the library. And the people who had been kind of reticent up to that point clapped and cheered, and after that I was sort of trusted a little more. They got a kick out of that. That was one of the funny stories that happened. But I'd get off work at 5 o'clock every night. I was county treasurer at the time, and I had a friend who lived next door, but he also worked for CP National, and he had a great big restored Lincoln town car of some sort, and we would drive, and we'd be out by the time we got there and made the speech and talked to people and sold memberships. We'd be midnight getting back in for sure. I knew I couldn't drive by myself and get all that done, so good old Jerry Green, he's deceased now, but great friend and loved the co-op, so yeah, that worked out okay.